Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Hi guys, Rick here. Before we get to this episode of Paddy's New Yacht, I'd like to talk briefly about gambling because it'll be discussed a lot on this show. Gambling is supposed to be fun and accoutrement to your sporting weekend. However, it can also be debilitating and ruin lives. If you find that your gambling gets in the way of work, school or other activities, causes mental or physical health issues, causes any issues in your life, gives you financial stress of any kind or damages your reputation, then gambling may be a danger to you. If you spot any of these signs in yourself, stop gambling immediately, consult problemgambling.ie for all resources that can assist you and help yourself before it's too late. And now, on to Paddy's New Yacht.
Former pro wrestler Rick Nash and former Paddy Power insider David Kent are not good gamblers. They're sports fanatics who are determined to crack the code and make it rich on sports gambling or die trying.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
Follow them on their journey to eventual bankruptcy every Friday on the Low Blows Network with sports tips that made so much sense at the time in Paddy's New Yacht.
The rumours were true after news about John Delaney's money just resting in the account last weekend and his prompt resignation as CEO of the FAI and prompt appointment as Executive Vice President shortly thereafter. A protest was held during the Ireland-Georgia Euro 2020 qualifier on Tuesday night where a horde of tennis balls were thrown onto the pitch to voice dissatisfaction among the attending fans. No one was hurt by the tennis balls. Darren Randolph was reported to get a mild fright when the protest started, but that's about the extent of the damage. Of course, mad debate was sparked. Twitter's just looking for a reason to argue with itself. But then you had in RTE, of course, you had Duffer against I'm after forgetting.
Richie Sadlier.
Yeah, wasn't he listening to him on Second Captains there yesterday? Talk about it all.
Yeah, how could you forget the man who scored a goal in under-18 playoff in 1999?
I didn't forget. I love the Players' Chair is one of my favourite podcasts. I just had a brain fart there. But yeah, Duffer and Richie Sadlier went at it. John Giles and Eamon they were John Giles and Eamon Dunphy during Italian 90, talking about whether it was the right time or whatever. We will get to all that as the show goes on. We've got a busy week, but as we get kicked off here on another edition of Paddy's New Yacht, Rick Nash here in the house with Daily Star and Buzz.ie's own David Kent. Kento, what is the most random sports protest that you can remember?
Most random and certainly the most necessary one. It's from Ireland, it's from the GAA, and it's from the Armagh GAA Club Championships back in 2014. Crossmaglen Rangers, 7-time All-Ireland Club champions, were in the second round action. They got by to the first round, and they're drawn against Drummondtee, small little parish just in North Armagh. And the Armagh GAA board decided to schedule the game for, I think it was a Saturday evening. But unfortunately, one of the Drummondtee players was getting married that evening. And for a small parish like Drummondtee, you can't really shuffle that around. You can't switch it around. Drummondtee put a request in to switch it. But then the GAA board came back and said, no, do you know what? We can't actually do that. And if you don't fulfill the fixture, there's going to be a 48-week ban for all codes at all ages. That includes from under 6 up, all the way down. Your team won't be able to play in the championships, and a fine of $5,000 for a small club. So Drummondtee were obviously like, well, fuck this. We can't let that happen. And what happened then was you had a couple of those 7-time All-Ireland winners of Crossmaglen lining out against lads in their 50s with jeans on. Literally just lads they pulled in from the pub or from the groundsmen to stand there, not even to play, just to fulfill the fixture. And there's a great video, you can still look it up if you want. There's a great video around it. It's this lad, he's an outfit, he's clearly had a couple of hip replacements. And he comes into he calls in the Crossmaglen manager and goes, I'm in my 50s, I'm doing this so that my kid can play next year, and I can't. This isn't for me. This isn't for the club. This is for my kid. And it only lasted 8 minutes. The match technically lasted 70 because it was a championship game. But the Cross Glenn just put up 1-8 on them in the first 10 minutes. And so to have a training session for the last hour while the Drummond players just kicked the ball. I say players, air quote players, just kicked the ball around for the remaining 60 minutes. Like, it was so unnecessarily It was like, just move the day, like back a day, because like the wedding is on the Saturday, play it on the Sunday evening. Yeah, you might have hungover, but you actually have a team. Nope, you must play it now. Right, we're just going to take the piss out of you then. Brilliant.
Fair play to them now. You have to like that.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about one that is relatively recent and fresh in people's memories. You've probably heard of this, but it is worth bringing up along this side. It's when people decided to burn their socks and shoes. Of course, the boycott Nike protest. It was only last year at Colin Kaepernick being featured in a Nike ad. I think we talked about it on the show at the time. But yeah, it was so random, and like it looks particularly stupid in hindsight again, because not only were people burning their socks and shoes that they had already paid for, like they are your possessions now. You're not burning like Nike factories, and don't burn Nike factories. Don't do any of that, right? But like they're not like harming Nike in any way. They're not taking anything away from them. They're burning stuff that Nike already has your money. And also as well, the cause is ridiculous because it's just them not understanding. It's like Colin Kaepernick hates our flag. He hates our national anthem. He hates our troops, and they're supporting him. That's not. No, like he was really clear about why he was protesting. He was protesting because of racial inequality. So by you going on Twitter and showing us that you're burning your socks and shoes, and by like telling the world that that's how you feel about this issue, not only are you outing yourself as a fucking idiot who now has to walk barefoot everywhere, not only are you like outing yourself as ignorant like of the situation, the causes and the actual issues at hand here, you now like nobody, not one person believes you are going to go there. Now of course like the people who defend this are going to say, well look, it was symbolic, we're going to hurt Nike because we're never buying their products again. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. It's like trying to protest against like Coca-Cola or McDonald's. Like some people just don't eat Coca-Cola or McDonald's or buy Nike shoes or clothes or whatever. That's fine, but they're not doing that out of protest. They're doing that out of personal taste. If you eat a McDonald's, if you drink Coca-Cola, if you buy Nike stuff, you're going to come back to it again. It's just the world we live in. No one is convinced that you feel hot enough about this issue, especially with Twitter outrage. We know these things are a 24-hour story. Think about how far that got. Did Nike ever report suffering one bit because of that ad? No! It got them more attention. They made more money. And Nike are fine. You actually helped promote the thing that you were trying to stop. And now, you've got no fucking shoes, you idiots. So for me, that's the most random protest. We're going to talk about John Delaney in particular still to come. What did you think about the protest itself, and what did you think about the debate that surrounded it?
I'm surprised that it actually happened, because we've seen in the past how, as you mentioned, these Twitter 24-hour things, but no, like they kept their words. They did throw them on, and listen, I think this has just been a build-up for a lot of fans over the last few years. It's only when it comes to the fore in the last couple of weeks for your part-time or your international fan. But this is what like local clubs and like the only people who will support John Delaney at the moment are the board because they tell him to, and the very, very grassroots club, the lads that Delaney gets on a bus to and hands out checks to, and he's wonderful, he's John the Baptist. But anyone else, like the NDSL, DDSL schoolboys, League of Ireland, all the way up through, there's always a bit of discomfort with it. So I was actually surprised that actually manifests itself in an Ireland game. And look, I don't agree with Damien Duff at all. His logic about the time added on because of the balls was just nonsensical. I'd imagine we'll see it again if Delaney isn't ousted by June. Obviously that's going to happen and he's in front of Leo Rocktis next week. But like, fair play to him is my point, because a protest outside Abbottstown wouldn't have done anything. I saw suggestions from Dunphy in particular in today's Star that, you could have got to Abbottstown and done it, but that wouldn't have got the same scope about it, and we're still talking about it 2 days after. You wouldn't have got that if we had done it outside Abbottstown. So, fair play to him. I
completely agree, and I think, to be honest, Duff was caught between a rock and a hard place, where his argument reminded me And look, we have to be opinion makers. We have to come up with like hot takes and like opinions on stuff that we may feel like kind of nonplussed about. That's the job, and that's the media, and that's what the position Duffer was put in. Like, and it happened in like the 34th minute of the match, and like he to then talk about it 10 minutes later. So he had to kind of figure out an angle to come at it from. So I do feel sorry for him in a sense, because it felt like, oh well, look, the added time and Georgia nearly scored, and it's like, that's not relevant. Like, they could have scored in the 40th minute, like, and there's no difference. Like, it was just felt like he had to have an argument talked on, and then you're talking again, like, with someone like Richie Sadlier as well, like, very intelligent man. Like, he's got a psychology degree and works in sports psychology and stuff like that. When he's got, like, an actual point to make, he's going to tear you apart. I felt bad. The one thing that I was against, because we're going to talk about John Delaney, like I said, and we're going to get to that, but the one thing that I didn't like was people tearing Duffer apart on social media, and like I hate this. Whenever there's a protest and someone comes out and says maybe there's a different opinion here, like the people who are protesting and presumably like speaking up against the man all of a sudden become the man, and they start like denigrating him, and they're like, Damien Duff has ruined his legacy as an Ireland player. He's ruined everything because he had an opinion that was different to mine, and he didn't like the thing that I stood for. And it's like, all right, relax. Like, you know, let people disagree with you. It's all very 2019. Like, it's if someone disagrees with you, they need to be burned at the stake. Like, because people are so weak about their opinions these days, they can't handle hearing an opposing opinion because they're just in these little bubbles that they're in. So I felt bad for Duffer from that standpoint. He was wrong, but like, to do these shows, I think we have to appreciate that they need to have a point and counterpoint, like, for a good debate, like, especially with the RT panel where they've got 5 minutes. Like, if we're on Paddy's New Yacht, we can flesh it out as much as we want because it's our show. It's our time, like. But, like, they've got to figure out an opinion. They've got to be like, can you say anything that's against it, Damien? And he's like, yeah, like, I wasn't mad on it, so I guess I can go against it. We'll go with the added time. And that's what happened. Like, that's how it works. You know this. I know this. But he got slated for it. Anyway, look, let's get talking about the big news, because it was a huge week in sports, even though we had the week off. And like, we didn't think there was going to be this many talking points coming back from it. Like, we're like, it's Ireland, Gibraltar, like, we're going to be struggling. We are not. So let's talk about the news from the week, with the way we do news in general. That is because there's so much stuff going on in the world of sports, so we want to talk about it all, but we don't have the time. We've only got like an hour a week to do so. So what we do is we package it together in one segment. We put a minute on the clock, in theory, per topic. We're definitely going to go along on this week. And we call it the 5 in 5 to discuss our 5 top stories of the week. And it gets underway now.
Yeah, we talked about him in the intro, but John Delaney has appointed himself the new executive vice president of the FAI, having moved from the chief executive officer under extreme pressure. But is this just an absolute fudge, and will Delaney last until June? Is this all going to go away?
Well, no, there's more reports now in Irish Independent about more money resting in some account somewhere. Like, this is typical Irish bureaucracy, and I think it's a surprise to nobody that John Delaney is behind it. We always kind of had a feeling. We always thought of him, like, I don't think people necessarily thought of him as corrupt. I don't think people, like, said, like, at the same time, I don't think people said that, like, he wouldn't be corrupt either. Like, I don't think anyone's surprised at this, but I thought we all thought he was just a bad administrator. Whereas now there's a more seedy side. It's all coming apart at the seams. I loved Noel Quinn coming out and saying that he would not take the job, and he hit the nail on the head, and he was the right person at the right time with the right amount of experience to just go, I have no interest in doing this job. Anyone that comes in is just essentially a ghillie. The guy who had the previous job is now sitting in the office next to you. It's an absolute farce. I think John Delaney will probably be gone within the next month or so, especially at the rate the stories are coming out. It's about time. I'm delighted. I'd say you're delighted.
Well, you see, this is the thing. I can't get hopeful about this because we've had so many of these false Delaney dons over the years. We had the IRA songs in Poland. We had the Pat Hickey ticket scandal. We had the 5 million loan. We had more money being shifted around. We have his problem child attitude to the league. There's so many times where things are like, right, Delaney has to go now. Then it is going to be ironic if the 100 grand thing trips him up, because it's exactly the same as what tripped his father up. And when he was FAI treasurer 2 decades ago, it was 100 grand payment to George the Greek in a ticket scandal. So I'm very wary. I hope the Oireachtas get him. I'm afraid that there are too many yes men and yes people on that Oireachtas committee. There's already a campaign to get one of them off because Delaney bought him World Cup tickets. So that's the kind of standard we're looking at. If they get him, and No Rock seems very, very intent on doing it, which I'm delighted to see. But I've had too many false starts to get myself hopeful. I think now the Premiership is back, now the Champions League is back, there's going to be football focus elsewhere for Irish fans. There's no international until June. They don't have to worry about John Delaney until June. If he lasts until the end of April, he will last until June.
I don't know. I think this is it. I think it's coming apart at the seams because, like you say, the problem is when you're a figure and like the media is against you, and you have so many people like in different areas against you. You have your own league is against you. The media is against you. Essentially, like you said at the start of the show, he's surrounded by his own little internal bureaucratic bubble. But now they even can't stand over him, and they're releasing statements almost on the hour trying to defend him. I think it's at a stage where I don't think anyone's going to get him. I don't think like there's going to be any corruption charges or anything brought about against him. I think he's gonna know the system and be able to play the system well enough to get away with it and continue his life and probably get a role in UEFA or something like that. But I think now he's going to have to resign. It's going to come to a stage where they're going to call a board meeting and they're like, John, we can't get anyone for this job. We can't get a patsy. Like Niall Quinn came out and that's why I love that interview, because it's just like anyone who takes it now fills the role that Niall Quinn said and looks like that patsy. You know what I mean? So now people aren't going to want it. So like they're like, we can't do this job with you there. So they'd have to almost go back and offer him the job back, which would create further scandal. And it's like this is it. This is now it. Like he has been CEO since 2004. This is what's different about it. This is the thing that caused him to resign from it. Now I know it's a soft resignation and he's doing essentially the same job but for less pay. But I think this is it now.
You see, this is the thing. What stops the FAI from just going onto that board that's been with Delaney since 2004? Like, there's lads who've been there 13, 14 years as well, or even longer than Delaney. What's the point? Like, I know they put Ray Walsh in temporarily. I don't think she'll last. So what stops the FAI? What stops John Delaney from going, right, you, my right-hand man for 10 years, you be the new CEO, and like it's the FAI's appointment. It's down to themselves. Like, I've had too many of these false starts, and I'm like, John Delaney has these brass rings, right? And when you grab these brass rings, they just disappear. That's all they are. They're imaginary.
Yeah, well, look, we shall see. As I definitely don't think we're having stories break by the day.
I hope I'm wrong. Yeah,
by the day, and when that happens, it's just like, right, people want your head. Your head has to roll, and you have a choice in letting it roll, or you can keep it going. I loved as well. Like, I was listening to speaking of second captains, I was listening to. I forget his name, the journalist from the Irish Times who published the original stories on in the Sunday Times. Yeah, and talking about having to go to the High Court, and even the High Court ruling against John Delaney. Like, it just feels like the walls are closing in. It feels like it's happening. It'd be really, really strange if it didn't at this stage. Like, look, they even got Sepp Blatter in the end. I'm hopeful that these things can reach a solution that we want in the end. Anyway, look, let's talk about the football, not the administration behind the football, because Ireland started their Euro campaign on a high with 2 1-0 wins over Gibraltar and Georgia, leaving them top of the group after Denmark and Switzerland drew 3-3. Was this the ideal start to the Mick McCarthy era?
Look, in terms of results, yes, we've got 6 points from 6. We only won 4 games in the last 16 under O'Neill, and now we've won 2. In terms of performance, and I got absolutely slated during the week for this and working on Twitter, I wasn't that impressed. I'm a little bit concerned.
What?
Like, no, hang on. Hear
me
out.
Oh, no, I'll let you say it.
It was one line in the post-match interview where Tony O'Donnell said to Seamus Coleman, Darren Randolph kept us in the game. And I'm like, that's not good against Gibraltar and Georgia, you know? And like, fair enough, it's a lot better than O'Neill, and I will accept that. And Mick is new. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and it's early. But if Darren Randolph is keeping us in the game against Georgia, I'm a bit concerned about what's going to happen against Switzerland and Denmark. Listen, it's international football. He'll probably fix it in 4 months. Performance-wise, not too impressed. Results-wise, very impressed.
Darren Randolph did not keep us in the game against Georgia.
I know.
We could have beaten Georgia 4-0, right? I think no. Let me speak. I think we played brilliantly against Georgia on Monday night. We played passing, fluid football. We actually looked like a proper football team for the first time in nearly 2 years. We played brilliantly. We had chances. We could have won 4-0 easily. Had chances gone in. The problem is we don't have we're Ireland. We have David McGoldrick up front. You know what I mean? We have a championship player, and we have a team and squad made up mainly of championship and lower league players. And we're punching above our weight. We're playing fluent football. The Gibraltar game was not good. We did not play well. But also, when you hear Mick McCarthy's excuse, I'm willing to give him time. Where it's it was a horrible journey. I hated it. We got what we needed to get. You know what? I can believe that happens sometimes. When you're going to fucking Gibraltar and you're playing on an artificial pitch, you know what? Maybe you do have to take a 1-0 win. Also, as well, I kind of take exception to the idea that we should be hockeying the likes of Georgia 4-5-0. Georgia are roughly the same size as us. There's no reason we have this entitlement to feel great about football when there's no backing for this. We have an essentially amateur league, domestic league, and that's not me slating the LOI. You're selling me on the LOI every week, and I'm kind of getting into it now. But let's call a spade a spade. We have outperformed ourselves in years, and that has built up an expectation to the point we're nearly spoiled. And if we don't beat Georgia 4-5-0, it's not a success. No, we are at Georgia's level, and the reason we're not is because we have good players and good managers that play for the badge and care about it. Well, and if they don't play for the badge, hi Declan Rice, they go elsewhere. But the players that want to be there, and they play well when they're motivated. So that's why we outperform, and that's built these expectations. But these expectations shouldn't be there. I think these are fine results. I think this was the perfect start. Again, we're top of the group. If I'd asked you, 6 points from the next 2 games, will you take it? You would have bit my hand off last week. If I'd have asked you before Mick McCarthy got appointed, you would have bit my hand off. It's just, this is better. This is an improvement. We're playing just a performance against Georgia as well. Just playing fluent football at home. I can live with that. We're probably not going to beat Denmark and Switzerland. They're better than us. They have better players. We have no world-class players in our side. We do not. So why would we beat teams that do have world-class players, that have Shaqiri, that have Christian Eriksen? Why would we beat players that have why would we beat teams that have those different players? We probably won't, but if we can go out and at least give a good accounting of ourselves, I'll take that.
Hang on, so would you agree that our players are on the same standard as Georgia then? We don't have to. And I agree, we don't have the players that are playing Premier League week in, week out. That's a long-term thing. But we only had 2 shots on target against Georgia. That's not progress.
Are they better? Are they that much better? Are they
come on. The Georgia in particular have, I think it's 14 home base in the Georgian league. I mean, no, they're probably not that much. I don't know what the standard of Georgian football is. I've never gone there with City. I can't imagine Dynamo Tbilisi are too good.
How many? Yeah, but who would you have? Would you have Dundalk or Dynamo Tbilisi in a Champions League qualifier? It's much of a muchness, isn't it? And we don't have Premier League players either. How many Premier League players are in the squads? Was it 6 or 7 in the entire squad?
Yeah, I think in the original squad, then it got trimmed down.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have Premier League players, so we're dealing with the second tier of English football against the first tier of Georgian football. Are we that much better? Are we? Really?
I think that's still a considerable distance.
Who'd win a match between Dynamo Tbilisi and Sheffield United? Corporate Keane was going mad about Sheffield. They're his new team because they have the most Irish players of any squad in England. Who'd win a match between Dynamo Tbilisi?
Okay. I need to correct him on that. Aston Villa have that. But I'd say Sheffield United comfortably from watching them week in, week out.
Yeah, because you watch them week in, week out, so you have no idea how good Dynamo Tbilisi are. This is that bias.
I can't imagine they're that good. Hang on, come back to the Dundalk point. People were Dundalk shouldn't get anywhere, and they've been winning the league for 4 or 5 years in a row. And when they went to the Europa League, and then suddenly they were in the group stages. So I kind of see your point there. But listen, the results were fine. The performances, we won 1-0 twice. I don't I'll give the benefit. I've seen McCarthy's teams over the years. I don't know how much better it's going to be in O'Neill, but I'll give him the benefit of that until June.
That's true. Anyway, look, moving on.
Yeah, 5-5. We've got about 2-7, I'd say, at this stage. Breaking news earlier on about an hour before we started recording that Man United finally appointed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as their full-time manager. Like, as a United fan, right decision, right time?
It's an interesting one. There was no other decision to make. And look, at this stage, after the Paris Saint-Germain result, we knew this was coming. Why drag it out any further? So I've no problem with it. Hearing that he's got a 3-year contract makes me a bit nervous because it's like, I don't know. I do have worries that there's going to be a bit of a Di Matteo effect where we do well in cup competitions and we kind of restore pride in the league, and then kind of the next season when he has a full summer, that's when the difficult second season begins. But there was only one decision to make. I've no problem with them making it now. Had they made it, say, before the PSG game or whatever, before we'd kind of achieved anything substantial under him apart from just boosting morale, I'd be worried. But no, I think it's a fair decision. I'm happy for him. There was no other choice to make. If we'd have gone Pochettino against him, that would have been grossly unfair on Solskjaer and just completely ignored it. So there was no other decision to make. I'm just not sure it'll work out in the long term. I hope that my concerns are proven completely baseless, though. Yeah,
look, absolutely right decision. Had to go to Ollie. Otherwise, you could have no logistical argument for any other manager against Solskjaer. My favourite thing about it, though, is that Virgil van Dijk is now going to have to move out of his house. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Van Dijk is renting Solskjaer's old house from 99 Days in Manchester. Solskjaer's in a hotel for now, but now he wants to move his family over. So now Van Dijk is going to have to move out so Solskjaer can move his family in. It's excellent. It's just an excellent story.
That could swing the title race. Just unsettling Virgil van Dijk. Great mind games by Solskjaer. Look, he's Ferguson. That's a Ferguson move all over. I'm feeling better about this.
Liverpool fans this morning were like, oh, well, look how well he's done. He came in and they were 16 points behind Liverpool, now they're 18 points behind Liverpool, la 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 la. And you're just like, shut up, Liverpool fans. Yeah, the world doesn't revolve around you.
Just in general, just shut up.
This is an exciting one because maybe 3 years is a bit long. I think maybe if they learn the lesson, maybe go 1 year rolling or even 2 years with the option of a third by the club. But look, 3 years, he could turn them into title challengers again. We don't know with a transfer budget. So it makes United really exciting to watch.
Yeah, we'll say, it makes this interesting. And look, as a United fan, I've had my share of glory. So, interesting is what I asked for, and decent performances, and he's getting them out of us. So we shall see. Moving on, 3-time Super Bowl winning tight end Rob Gronkowski announced his retirement from the NFL this week. How will he be remembered in the grand scheme, though?
One of the greats, I think, and also kind of the modern day NFL celebrity. And the reason I say that is because I can't remember what day this broke, but the next morning I was talking to Shannon, and she was like, "Oh, Rob Gronkowski." She brought it up, and I was like, "Yeah, how'd you know him?" And she was like, "Oh, he's the guy with the Patriots, isn't he? He's that real party fella." I was like, "Yeah." So he's got that mainstream audience, and he's still only 29. I was shocked to see that as well. I thought he was on the wrong side of 30. So to do that much in a short enough career, I say short in the NFL, 8 years, isn't it, for a tight end? I think it was. That's solid enough. And 3-4 Super Bowl rings in there. It's very serious. Maybe change the way we see tight ends as well.
Oh, absolutely. Greatest tight end to ever play the game. Changed the sport. Yeah. First ballot Hall of Famer. The best Patriot Bill Belichick drafted and produced by far. That's it. And it speaks for himself. An absolute legend. And there's nothing more that can really be said on that. Anyway, lastly, moving on to another retirement.
Yeah, well, we'll see Conor McGregor retired, or announced his retirement. There's retirement from the mixed martial arts sport during the week, which leaves me with one question. Rick, who's he fighting in July?
Yeah, this is it. It's not a retirement whatsoever. It's a strategic ploy. One thing that's interesting and I hadn't thought about beforehand was I listened to Chael Sonnen's podcast there the other day, and he brought up a great point. He's like, if you announce that you retire with the USADA regulations, they could request that you leave the pool immediately. Just the way it works is that, with other things, you might have to put through paperwork a while, or you might have to apply or stuff like that. With USADA, if you tweet out that you're retired, They can take you out of the pool, and then you have to wait a few months to re-enter the pool to honour your retirement. So that could be interesting, and I don't know. We haven't heard much on that yet. I think it's just a negotiation tactic. He wants Khabib. He wants a rematch. He's not been quiet about this. The rumour talk about Donald Cerrone was that he wasn't happy that it wasn't a main event, even though like his fight with Nick Diaz, because UFC generally likes to put title matches as main events, and they feel that Conor may have been somewhat diminished in value with the loss to Khabib. So I reckon that's what this is about. I don't think he's going to fight in July now. I think this is stalled, and like with everything, like even with press conferences with Conor McGregor get stalled by an hour or two. I think this is stalled any upcoming fight. But I think he's looking for Khabib, he's looking for the rematch, and he's saying, right, I'm going to sit on the sidelines. I like Dana White's counter where he's like, look, I do the same, fair play to him. Whereas last time he had to come out and be like, these are just words, he's not retired, don't take him out of the pool, USADA. Whereas now Dana White's just sick of his shit, and he's just like, yeah, good luck to him. So he's playing hardball with him. So, it's not real retirement. McGregor wouldn't go out that way. He'd have to have bells and whistles. So it's a negotiation tactic. It's just I'm just intrigued to see if it'll work or not.
Yeah, it struck me very much as, look at me. It's the classic McGregor, say something, get the hype around yourself again. And now, like, he was the buzz in the UFC and the MMA the morning after. Suddenly everyone's talking about McGregor again. Dana White, and like you say, he's learned from it the last time. He's like, yeah, you know what? He's got a good whiskey with his good luck too. So maybe his negotiating power has lost a little there. I don't think we'll see, like, the money is probably in the Khabib fight. Whether we see it, I'm not sure, but I take it with a pinch of salt. I'd be very, very surprised if he's retired.
It also wouldn't surprise me if this was all like this was Dana's idea. And this is all just hype. And Dana already, because we haven't heard anything about the USADA thing, which should be a very real aspect. So Dana could have gone to them and go, hey, we're going to do this. It's just for promo. Don't worry about it. So it could have been Dana's idea to begin with and just good promo. But anyway, that is the news for the week. Now we're going to talk about the returning Premier League fixtures and the return of the Paddy's New Yacht Prediction League. We are back with a special 11-game week because we have United Wolves on Tuesday. So it is to round off the April contest, which is dead tight at the moment. I think I might be leading. I can't remember. But yeah, we have
another free month for you.
Yeah, this is it. Getting a free subscription to my own network. But guys, if you're a newer listener and just checking it out for the first time, you can play along with the Paddy's New Yacht Prediction League. We've been going since August. So look, if you want to win the yearly contest, you're going to have to get every result exactly right and your anytime goal scorer. It's probably not going to happen, but like, you can enter our monthly contest. We start a new monthly contest next week, and then you can win a month subscription to Low Blows VOD. All you have to do is get onto the Paddy's New Yacht Twitter, at Paddy's New Yacht, all one word. Just give us a follow there. Our tweet should go up on, usually if it's a Saturday game week, we have Thursday about 6 o'clock, which will be this week. All you have to do is quote tweet the tweet and then give us your predictions for the 10 or 11 in this case Premier League games of the weekend, and give us the correct score and an anytime goal scorer. If you get the outcome right, you get 1 point. If you get the correct score right, you get 3 points, and if your anytime goal scorer scores, you get 2 points, so a potential 6 points per game. We wanted to play along with this, however, because the prize is a subscription to my network. We had to put some kind of handicap on it just so we weren't winning every month. So while you guys have until around 11 a.m. on Saturday morning to get it in, we have to do our predictions now when we record on Thursday afternoon. So as soon as you hear our predictions come out of our mouth, they are locked in. Doesn't matter if there's an injury, doesn't matter if anything happens in the meantime, they're locked in. We're going to get it kicked off with the first game of the weekend in the PL. It is Fulham against Man City in the early game, and Dave, we have one golden rule here on Paddy's New Yacht when it comes to the early game. What is that? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't bet on the early. Although this one is tempting, I'm not going to lie. This one is very tempting. If you're looking to boost an acca like with a handicap or an anytime, this is a very tempting one. Look, are a City side who are going to be well rested, having not tasted Premier League action in 3 weeks, going to blink here against a Fulham side who've lost 7 on the trot in the league, as well as losing their last 7 against City? Doubtful. The last time Fulham even kept a clean sheet against City was in 2004. City do come into this with a number of injury concerns, with the likes of Fernandinho and Kevin De Bruyne is still doubtful, and we've seen them slip before without Fernandinho. Don't forget, that's how Liverpool are like on par with them in the league. And look, Fulham, they have put it up at home to Spurs, Chelsea and Liverpool in recent weeks. They netted me 6 points 2 weeks ago when I correctly predict Liverpool eking out a 2-1 win. So I'm going to back the trend and say that they put it up to City again here in another valiant but losing effort. I'm going to pick City to win 2-1 with Aguero to score. And Aguero is good for the anytime bets. He's on absolute fire lately.
Yeah, look, no injuries for City over the international break. I mean, there's doubt about Fernandinho, but even still, that'll be 1-2 weeks max. And even if it's one, it's this game, I think they can afford to miss him against someone like Fulham. It's a solid way for him to go back top, at least temporarily. Like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Fulham players and even Scott Parker say they're prepared for the championship. So, like City are preparing for the title. I'm gonna go City logic, even though they're away from home and it's in the early, which is where weird stuff happens. I'm gonna go 4-0 with Aguero.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. We don't see Fulham get hockey that much against the big side.
Yeah.
So it's a risky pick. 3 p.m. kickoffs. These are all bet-safe games. Starting with Brighton against Southampton. A sneakily decent game with two sides who are both coming into form before the international break. Brighton's back-to-back league wins mark the first time they'd won 2 in a row since the start of December, while Southampton took out Spurs after nearly doing the same to Man United. It's a bit of a mess at first glance, especially coming off a break. So let's lean on our main rule when it comes to football, FMQ. Form, motivation, quality in that order. Both sides are evenly matched for form. It's dead even in terms of their past 6 games. They've got 7 points. Evenly matched for motivation in 15th and 16th respectively. And quality is a toss-up here. So this is all pointing towards a draw for me, which both sides would likely settle for, not being in immediate danger of the relegation zone. That's also our big rule when it comes to draws. Will both sides be happy with it? And if it's getting tight late on, and will they both just take the foot off the gas and protect the draw? I think both sides will. So I'm going 2-2 with James Ward-Prowse to become the first Southampton player since Jay Rodriguez in 2014 to score in 4 consecutive games.
And look, I do like that pick. I mean, fact of the week, all 3 of the Premier League meetings between these two have finished level. So, there's form there for the draw. To sneak in one for game of the weekend, there's kind of something riding on it. Like a win for the Seagulls moves them further clear of both the Saints and relegation. But if the opposite happens, then Hassan Hüttel's army go above them. My prediction of Glenn Murray scoring all the time has backfired massively. He's gone 7 in a row at home without scoring. Yeah. Another fun fact, Southampton have scored 2 or more in their last 3 games, including in the impressive win over Spurs before the international break. So I'm going to go for the away side here, and I'm going to bring back an old gimmick on Paddy's new yacht. Alariza Jahanbash is going to get his first Brighton goal in a 2-1 loss.
Ballsy call. He's playing better. I am keeping an eye out for him, and he is playing better, so it's due. But we never bet on things that are due, and you just did, Ken.
No.
Burnley against Wolves. 2 sides going in completely opposite directions, with Burnley falling out of form at exactly the wrong time and Wolves coming into form at exactly the right time. However, the international break is a sucker for pushing the reset button on form. And when it comes to motivation, Sean Dyche's men have this all day, as they could end the weekend in the relegation zone if results don't go their way, while Wolves could start to coast now in 7th place with an FA Cup semi-final they'll be favoured in to look forward to. Also a concern here, how Wolves haven't kept a clean sheet away from home in 11 games now. I've just got a funny feeling about this one. I can't. Wolves should win. Wolves are the better side. They should win. Burnley are out of form. But I've just got a weird feeling. We've seen Burnley raise their game and do just enough when needed this season. Every time they're just about to get pulled into the relegation zone, we see a big performance and them getting a result. So I'm going to pick Burnley to win here, 2-1 with Ashley Barnes to score.
Yeah, look, they're flatlining and they need to defibrillate themselves with a win against Wolves. 4 defeats in a row. And April sees them have not only a 6-pointer against Cardiff and games against Chelsea and Man City. So they need to start picking up points, otherwise it won't look good. Wolves were unbeaten against Burnley in the Premier League. They've won all 3 games. But as you mentioned, they leak terribly on the road. 11 games in a row without a clean sheet. But they tend to score quite often in these games as well. A few of them have been draws. So I'm going to go for another away draw. I'm going to go for 1-1 with Jimenez, who's also on fire.
An away draw as opposed to a home draw.
Yeah.
All right,
I
interesting.
said it.
Crystal Palace take on Huddersfield. We're starting to think of Palace as a more complete side now, with Michy Batshuayi's loan signing proving inspired and transforming how they play on the pitch. They're a great side to watch these days. But it's worth bearing in mind they've still got an appalling home record, having won just one in the last 7, which is just the story of Palace this season. Never fear though, Huddersfield are here, just passing through town on their journey towards the championship. Has this Premier League season for Huddersfield been the most depressing of all time? They have already passed Derby's pitiful 11-point haul for 2007-8, but you also struggle to imagine them even getting the 1 point required to match Sunderland's second worst record of 15 points under, of course, New Ireland boss Mick McCarthy to just make us feel better about everything in 2005-6. So, safe to say, I've got Palace winning here, 2-0 with Batshuayi to score.
Hang on, just going to flash back a minute for your Brighton Southampton pick. What's that one?
Draw.
Yeah, because Huddersfield will go down if Southampton beat Brighton and Burnley beat Wolves, which would be the earliest relegation since Derby in 2006, I think it was. Yeah. 2008 maybe. Yeah, but it'd be joint. That's how bad it would. They'd be level with that.
Jesus.
It's an acca do as well. Look, Palace haven't won their last 3 home games, but they've scored at least once in their last 11. Huddersfield, as I mentioned, will be relegated. Weird quirk. The home side have never scored a goal in the 7 top-flight meetings between these sides.
Weird.
So there's something for Huddersfield fans to maybe think about as they get absolutely pasted. I'm going to go, don't be stupid here. 2-0 Zaha.
Leicester against Bournemouth. I'd say that Brendan Rodgers was raging. The international break came just as Leicester were building momentum under him, although he did appreciate the extra time to get the fuck out of his Glasgow home earlier than expected after it was broken into when he left Celtic. He stands on the cusp of history this weekend, hoping to become the first Leicester manager ever to beat Bournemouth in the Premier League. That's just a weird record and a weird stat that looks, and one that, to be honest, he should easily achieve when you consider Bournemouth's away record. And no, I don't count them beating Huddersfield away as a sign things are turning around here. So I've got Leicester to win, 2-1 Vardy to score.
Yeah, look, this is a great game with a load of beautiful stats that make absolutely no difference to the betting. As you mentioned, Leicester have never beaten Bournemouth in 8 Premier League meetings, but they were beaten against them at home with stupid, sexy Eddie Howe in charge. Rodgers never lost to them either, and from his time in charge of Liverpool and Swansea. On the field, Leicester back-to-back wins, Bournemouth back-to-back away wins. I'm going to borrow your logic from earlier. I'd say both sides would be happy with a draw here because they're both fine. So I'm going to go for 2-2 with Vardy.
See, the thing now we have to take into account is, teams that are just coasting in mid-table obscurity, that just don't really care about the game and just are having a laugh. Yeah. So that's going to fuck up your accas as well. It gets tougher this time of year. And then the big games, that's when you get nervous legs. So acca wins are hard to come by this late in the game. Man United against Watford. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will look to celebrate his permanent appointment as United manager with a return to winning ways, as his injury crisis relents a bit with Alexis Sanchez, the only player guaranteed to miss Saturday's Old Trafford clash with Watford. The loss to Arsenal has put the pressure on, though, as United now have expectations of top 4, and it's achievable when you consider Spurs lie just 3 points ahead and face a trip to Liverpool this weekend, while Chelsea sit just 1 point behind and have Cardiff, so they can't rest easy either. So things may not be as swashbuckling and fun as it was when Ole was just a caretaker. Perhaps the honeymoon phase is over, but there's no reason to think the results won't continue to be the same. Watford are yet to register a point against any of the top 6 this season and were handled comfortably by both City and Liverpool in recent weeks. So I've got United to win 3-1 here. I've got Martial to score.
Yeah, look, United have been playing well, bar the defeat to Arsenal, but now the pressure is off them to hold that unbeaten run. They could get even more free flowing now because, we're not holding anything, so we might let's just keep playing the way we are and fire ahead towards the top 4. The "we'll score more than you" attitude has seen Old Trafford breached in all but 2 games. That really surprised me. It means that United are conceding a lot, but the fact that they're just like I said, "we'll score more than you." You can have the ball, you score. Don't worry, we'll win anyway. The good news for them this weekend is that Watford have never won a league game on Matt Busby way. They've won 3 of the last 5 in the league, but United might be my favourite team to watch at the moment. So I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go Marcus Rashford. Okay,
moving on to the Saturday evening game. West Ham against Everton. And everything is lining up one way for this. West Ham are unbeaten 6 at home, having won their last 3. Manuel Pellegrini has never lost to Everton. And though I tend to hate these stats, Marco Silva hasn't won in London in 9 games. It's a shame because things seemed to come good for Silva before the break when he served my optimism in Everton proud in beating Chelsea. Remember, I called that, not many others did, which marked Everton's first Premier League win of 2019 that wasn't against Huddersfield, Cardiff or Bournemouth's away form. Remember what I said about earlier on about the international break resetting form though? It's going to be hard to ride that win for 2 whole weeks. So I've got West Ham to win 2-1 here with Hernandez to score.
Yeah, Manuel Lanzini's kind of been driving the Hammers at home. He scored in the last 3 home games, and look at that. They've won the last 3 home games, including that weird game against Huddersfield where it was 4-3. Their away form means that unfortunately Manuel Lanzini isn't really driving them anywhere in the table. They're kind of like stuck. They're stuck in a roundabout at this stage where it's like, yeah, we can't go either way. Let's just coast here. Everton aren't much better, as you mentioned, haven't won in London since January 2017. This is quite a random game for the late slot, I find. So I'm going to go for a random scoreline, 5-2 to West Ham, Chicharito.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, well, look, you never know. Like, I think the last time you picked one of those random scorelines, it ended up coming in. So
it was 7-0 for City against Huddersfield, I think.
Moving on to the Sunday game, starting at 2:05, Cardiff against Chelsea. And I've got a funny feeling about Burnley beating Wolves, but I may be alone in that. So, if Wolves do indeed win as expected, then Cardiff have a chance to get out of the relegation zone, while Chelsea will need a win to keep pace with the top 4 regardless of what happens. That's interesting because picking Chelsea here relies on you thinking Sarri will have used the break to motivate his side after the loss to Everton. But motivating his side is the one thing he's come out and admitted publicly that he's found difficult to do. Even if you think of their brief run of form before the break, that was off the back of their Carabao Cup defeat, which was brought on by Maurizio Sarri being unable to motivate his keeper to get off the fucking pitch. Chelsea are awful away. Cardiff can be sneakily tight at home. I'm getting another funny feeling here. I'm genuinely like, I can't pick Chelsea to win here. I cannot. But my funny feeling is for a draw here. I think it's gonna be a draw. I don't think Cardiff are gonna get the job done. So I've got to finish in 1-1 with Higuain to score. His only goals this season have come in against sides in the relegation zone. You're a fucking bully, Gonzalo. Nothing more.
Look, if Cardiff want to complete this great escape, they're like 2 points off Burnley and the Saints with the game in hand. It's doable, but as you mentioned, it'll be their home form that'll keep them up. There's negative headlines around the club this week due to the Salah contract mess, but on the field, they were impressive in beating West Ham before the break. However, Chelsea now have the motivation to win as well, as they're locked in an exciting top 4 race for Arsenal, Spurs and United, and they have the second game of those 3. Type of professional win from Chelsea, he thinks they just have too much quality. 3-1 with Pedro. I think Cardiff will make them work for it.
Okay, interested. Liverpool against Spurs, the main event on Sunday. The game that could blow the title race wide open. Drink for every time someone on Sky uses the word bottle while talking about this one over the next few days, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. On paper, Liverpool should win this. They're 36 undefeated at home and have lost this fixture only once in Premier League history. Spurs come into this off the back of a humbling at Southampton that had been coming for a while, in truth. They now haven't won the league since February 10th. They haven't won in the league since February 10th. So with all things pointing to Liverpool, it just comes down to if you think they can do it when it counts. With the TV cameras on, where they've disappointed in recent weeks against United and Everton, with City presumably back on top, I do think they'll do it. I do in this case. But man, it's going to be interesting. And I've got Mane to score in a 2-0 win.
It is going to happen very, very soon. That question of bottle, like, it's Liverpool. They don't win leagues. They won't win the league. It's going to happen eventually. I think Sky have ruined this one on me because they've talked about it a lot, and I've been in work a lot. So Sky Sports News is on just every time I look up, it's always Liverpool Spurs. My just main question is, why isn't this at 2:05? Was that just a 1 week thing?
Yeah.
That they just come
I think
on.
It was just to establish 2:05 as an important slot, so they gave, and also I think it was Carling Cup final week, so that's why they put United Liverpool in there.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they've only lost once at Anfield to Spurs since I was born, and their record away from home against them isn't too shabby either. Spurs just can't seem to get that win. So what a time it would be to reignite their fire ahead of their homecoming in the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next week, and that builds up into the Champions League quarter-final against City. All they have to do is stop the rampaging Sadio Mane, who has 11 goals in his last 11 games. I think they do. I think they might not stop Mane, but I think they stop Liverpool. I'm going to go for 1-1 with Mane scoring. I just see it as being this week. Spurs are a good team.
Yeah, look, I can't argue. Here's the thing, though. Liverpool could not bottle it. Like, we were talking about, like, it as a foregone conclusion that they are going to. But no, here's the thing. If Liverpool win every game, remaining in the schedule, they still don't win the league if City win every game. It's not in their hands. City have a game in hand. They're 2 points behind. So it doesn't even matter if they don't. So it's an interesting one. Look, I could be talked into any result. This is the thing. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it, and I'm definitely not betting on it. Last but not least, for the weekend's games, though, remember, guys, we do have 2 games actually on Tuesday. I forgot about Watford Fulham. We have Arsenal against Newcastle on Monday night before that, though. And now it's Arsenal's turn to stand in the spotlight and see if they can avoid bottling it. If results go the way the bookies have them, the Gunners will come into this in 5th spot and level with Chelsea, but with a chance to win and go 3rd. Look, in actuality, while Rafa does like putting in a shift against big sides on TV, they've beaten City and Spurs needed a late goal to win in recent games, and Newcastle have just lost once since that Spurs game at the start of February. You'd expect Arsenal to do the job here. They haven't, they've won their last 9 games at home. Newcastle haven't won away since December. Arsenal could be stuck in midfield with Torreira suspended and Xhaka and Ramsey injury concerns, while Newcastle tend to pack the midfield and leave Rondon alone up front and hope to nick a goal on the break. So it could be an interesting game. It could be tight, but I still see Arsenal edging it out. 1-0, Aubameyang to score.
If that draw between Liverpool and Spurs happens, I predicted that an 11th straight home win for Arsenal will move them into 3rd place. And they love playing Newcastle at home. The last 6 meetings in the Emirates, played 6, won 6. They've scored 18 times and conceded 5. Ozil also loves a goal against the Magpies with 3 in his last 4 games. Newcastle could still be considered in the relegation fight, but they aren't really, if you get me. It's like, yeah, look, they could still get caught in, but they look just fine. They won't be able to get dragged into it, even with a defeat here. I'm going to go 3-1 with Aubameyang.
Okay, interesting. We're going to have our picks for the other 2 games up on Twitter as well, because we got to keep it tight and keep it focused on the weekend ahead. In terms of the acca for the weekend, I am throwing the book at this. Again, like, I'm playing with house money.
You can, yeah.
I've won the season so far, so I'm just going all in for it. And I really like my bet. It's a 5-way acca. €5 on this returns almost exactly 127 quid in return. First off, I'm going for a draw with Brighton and Southampton. And then I've got 4 afternoon kickoffs. So I've got Crystal Palace to beat Huddersfield, Leicester to beat Bournemouth, West Ham to beat Everton, and Man United to beat Watford. None of which sounds implausible. So you're getting great odds for a 5-way acca. I really like that bet, and I'm looking forward to Saturday. Whether it'll come in or not, you know what, football accas don't tend to go my way. But I'll be keeping an eye on that. Dave, what will you be keeping an eye on this weekend?
Well, you surely saw during the week, Birmingham were hit with a 9-point points deduction because of financial fair play regulations. It moved them from 5 points off the playoffs to 5 points clear of relegation.
Jesus.
That's how close. A 9-point swing moved them from 10th to 20th. Jesus. That's how close the championship is. And it's not only them. Villa, Derby, and Sheffield Wednesday are all in a bit of trouble too, but I think they're going to survive the season and they might come in next year. They've also been spending out of their limits. At the top, before we went to the international break, Sheffield United beat Leeds 1-0 to go second, 1 ahead of the Whites and 4 behind Norwich. Pick of the week is the Hooligan Derby as Leeds try and bounce back against Millwall. And then there is plenty of rugby. So Heineken Cup is back in after the glory of the Six Nations, I guess. We're back to provincial rugby. First up on Saturday, Munster head to Edinburgh as slight underdogs against a patriotically led Scottish side. I think there's 4 non-Scots in the Edinburgh starting 15, which is amazing. Then in the Aviva, it's the All-Ireland clash between Leinster and Ulster. Double champions Leinster have been shaky in recent weeks in the Pro 14, but Ulster's history in Europe means that this should be a Leinster win, but stranger things have happened. Anything can happen in the Heineken Cup as well. It should be a Munster-Leinster win on Saturday, but I really, really won't be surprised if Ulster pull off a shock.
Interesting times. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the European football as well. And look, in the weekend after our last show, things got interesting in the leagues again. And now, I previously said, keep your interest in La Liga and Serie A to passing. Juve and Barca still have that essentially wrapped up. But it's elsewhere that it's getting interesting, because I also want to tell a story. I have to feel for the boyfriend of a girl that I work with who booked a romantic trip away to Barcelona, sneakily thinking he was going to see the Barca Espanyol Catalan derby in the new camp, because he's like, look, while we're there, we have to go to the new camp. They're not doing any tours. Like, I can hear as a lad and a football fan, you can hear the way he's selling it and he's pitching it, and he's like, I'd be happy just doing a tour, but they don't do tours, so I guess we're going to have to go to the game. Turns out tickets for those are 108 quid each.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're not going to that game. So I have my fingers and toes crossed for him that he gets to swing it. I'm fighting for him. I'm like, look, you go off and spend your 108 quid shopping, and he goes off to the game by himself, and you just meet up later, and you both get to do what you want. So I'll report back on that if he's successful. So that's what we're watching this Saturday afternoon. Celta Vigo and my team, Villarreal, meeting a relegation 6-pointer on Saturday, which may surprise people to hear those two names caught up in the relegation zone. Celta are struggling without Iago Aspas, and if they lose this, they'll be 7 points behind Villarreal, who lie one place ahead of them in 17th. Aspas is training hard for an early return though, and if he can come back and be 100%, that could change everything for Celta. So very interesting. Second place, fifth, as Atletico play Champions League hopefuls Alaves Saturday, with both needing to win to keep pace in their respective chases. You know, Barca have it sewn up, but there's still 10 points in it, so Atletico in theory could come back. They can't afford to lose anything. Alaves are chasing Getafe in fourth. Then Sunday afternoon, 6th meets 7th as Sevilla host Valencia, with both sides still in European contention but behind Getafe and Alaves, so both desperately need 3 points. All worth, maybe not like spend your afternoon watching them, especially with Liverpool Spurs on, you're not gonna, but like worth keeping an eye on Twitter at the very least. We'll post updates ourselves there. In Serie A, Inter threw the cat among the pigeons with a spectacular 3-2 win in the Milan derby we told you to keep an eye on a couple of weeks ago, to give their previously lagging UEFA Champions League hopes a boost and consolidate third spot in a weekend when only Napoli were the other side in the top 6 to win. Yes, that includes Juventus, who lost their unbeaten streak to Genoa, but still like 15 points ahead, so it's pretty insignificant. It's just they would have finished it. They would have done an unbeatable season. So there's a scrum now for fourth, with a slew of games that could make things even messier. Milan host Sampdoria on Saturday. Samp are 9 points behind them in fourth, but a win here could keep their dreams alive with so many other rivals set to drop points. On Sunday afternoon, 5th place Roma need to beat Napoli or they could find themselves out of even the UEFA Cup spots, while Fiorentina travel to Torino in a game both needs to win to keep hope alive. Then it doesn't get any easier for Inter, as they have to face a now resurgent Lazio, who kept pace in with the pack with a 4-1 win over Parma last time out. They face them in the San Siro on Sunday night. Only Juve and Atalanta have games this weekend against sides not also in the extremely tight top 10. So the Serie A calendar is hotting up. This is a great weekend. Basically everyone in the top 10 that's relevant playing each other. So like it's going to switch up yet again because everything's proper tight. Then, speaking of tight, in the tightest title race in Europe, Bayern lead Dortmund by just 7 goals on goal difference, having won their last 3 games by an aggregate score of 17-1. That includes back-to-back 6-0 wins. Bayern want this fucking title, especially after going out of the Champions League. The two sides both play on Saturday afternoon, with Bayern travelling to Freiburg and Dortmund hosting 7th place Wolfsburg. It's squeaky bum time, and any dropped points from here could be a concession of the title. It's that tight. So it's must-see stuff, guys. Keep an eye on the Bundesliga. They're the leagues I'll be keeping an eye on, of course, but they're some of the best leagues in Europe, but they are, of course, not the greatest league in the world. So, Dave, tell me what's going on in the LOI.
Listen, I thought you were a fan of German football. Were you not watching the German 4th tier last week? No. When Fortuna Dusseldorf's second team randomly decided to play the Finn Harps song over the PA at half-time. There's a video going around on Twitter of a load of confused Germans looking up at the press box going, what the fuck is going on? Basically, a Dusseldorf fan, load of Dusseldorf fans were in Dublin couple of years ago for a stag party, and Harps were playing away, I think it was Shelburne, something like that, and they got linked in, and then one of them was the PA, the MC guy for Fortuna Dusseldorf. So for their 4th tier game against, I can't remember who it was against, they just decided to randomly play it and send the video to the Finn Harps lads. So, you know, like, how greatest league in the world is that? Come on. On the pitch, there is finally a game on television. since the first week. We're 7 games in and there's a game on television. It's Dundalk against Cork City. And usually I'd be talking to you about how it's the top 2 going head-to-head, the most successful teams in the year and the best teams in the year so far this year going head-to-head. But it's actually not this year because they're both 7 points behind Shamrock Rovers at the top. And there's a weird kind of caveat to this in Vinnie Purse went on News Talk last weekend talking about how he was so disappointed and he had visions of going to a World Cup with Stephen Kenny as the Ireland manager. That's basically said to the Dundalk fans, I'm not happy here, and they have turned against him slightly.
Ooh.
John Caulfield, the Cork City manager, is also under pressure from his own fans after some shocking home performances. So there's a lot of pressure going into Oriel Park, where City, I think, have won of the last 5, but Dundalk, there's been 3 draws as well. It's going to be tight. It's not going to be like all these games have been tight over the years. The FAI Cup finals, of course, and even the league meetings. You don't really get more than 1-0 or 2-1. But there's really, really big intrigue in this because the loser will probably go 10 points behind Rovers. Rovers were very, very clever during the international break. There isn't usually an international break for League of Ireland clubs because obviously there's no League of Ireland internationals. But at the underage, if you get more than 2 underage players called up to your squad, you can request to have your game postponed.
Right.
Every team. There's 5 ties. Obviously 10-team league, 5 ties. 4 of those ties had teams which had players called up, requests to be put off. So Cork City had no game, Dundalk had no game. There's only one game which survived, which was Shamrock Rovers against Finn Harps. You'll remember 2 weeks ago I talked about that very same fixture when Ollie Horgan got sent off for talking Irish.
Yeah.
So they played each other twice in 3 weeks. Rovers had 3 lads called up to under 21. But they risked it and they said, you know what, we'll be fine without them. They got their win and they're 7 points clear. And they're probably going to go 10 points clear of Dundalk and Cork because one of them's going to drop points. It's a really intriguing week. And there's probably going to be another Finn Harp story anyway. So.
All right, well, I'm sold there. You have me at Finn. Anyway, guys, we spoke earlier on about Huddersfield, how they could get relegated this week. David Kent, you're very near the relegation zone when it comes to Kent on Kent. Like, it's rough times for you. We have the video chat up to make sure no cheating involves. You could go 4 points behind. You're losing 15-12 currently in the end of show quiz. Nervy times for you. Guys, if you're listening for the first time, basically, my esteemed colleague David Kent, of course, works for the Daily Star and Buzz.ie. Every week to end the show, we quiz him on stories he's reported himself and see how he remembers the stories he's reporting. We have 3 questions. If he gets 2 or more right, he wins the point for the week. He needs to get points on the board. 15-12 to me over the season. So we shall see how that goes. Question 1. You reported on TJ Dillashaw relinquishing the UFC Bantamweight Championship due to an adverse drug test. Who did he beat, though, to win that belt? He's shaking his head.
No. Just
name a bantamweight fighter.
I don't even know if he is bantamweight anymore. Cueto, even though it's not him, he didn't let him who fought last. But no idea.
Okay. Question 2. You reported on the initial Sport Ireland disclosure of the loan given by John Delaney to the FAI, which brought about an end to his 14-year reign as CEO. People speak about his time at the helm as a disaster. But was the winning percentage of the Irish national side over or under 40% during Delaney's reign?
Oh, wow. What a question.
I've done research for this question because once I thought of it, I wanted to know. So I've actually done the maths myself.
So the whole Ireland man.
Did they win more than 40% or less than 40% of the games?
Okay.
Since 2004.
We got to 2 European championships there. So that's at least, hang on, I can't work this out. Isn't stats wise. Kerr had a good winning percentage, Staunton didn't. O'Neill had a solid one, Trapp overall had a solid one. I'm going to say, there's been a lot of games, a lot of friendlies, we tend to do well enough when we've been 2 European championships. I'm going to go, it's 50-50 shot anyway.
It's 50, this is it. It's a tough question, but it's 50-50. There's a lot of draws in there as well, though. You got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
They don't count as winning percentage, so... all right, you're going over?
Just about. I'm going to say just about over 40.
All right, speaking of going over, last but not least, you reported on Becky Lynch being confirmed to headline WrestleMania 35. The question is, though, what name did she compete under when she wrestled here in Ireland?
Rebecca Knox.
Very quick in there with the response. All right, you see.
I was going to say Rebecca Quinn, but that's her real name.
That's her real
Marks
name.
and all that.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Right. Question 1. I can confirm, yeah, Rebecca Knox. Look, you knew that already. I'll give you that, yeah. Question 1, who did TJ Dillashaw beat to win the Bantamweight Championship? You guessed Cejudo. It was not. You knew it was wrong. It was Cody Garbrandt.
Oh, if I thought, no, even if I thought about that, maybe if you'd give me 15 minutes to think about that, I probably would have gone up, but no. I seem to always be doing this where I set myself up for this third question.
Right. Ireland. Did they win more than 40% of their games with John Delaney at the helm? They lost 39 games. They drew.
Oh no.
They drew 56 games. They won 40% is the magic number to get the point or to maybe throw away the season.
That seems a very high number.
They won 56 games also. It was under. It was 37%. Kento.
Yeah, fair.
Oh, you just been Huddersfielded.
I know. I had that brief period where I closed it into 2 points again, and
I don't.
now I've appointed Jan Seymour, and it's all gone wrong.
We have about 6 weeks left of the show. So you're pretty much going to have to win out at this stage. I will make it easier. I'll give you a chance, but Kento, it's all gone. It's all gone.
It's all gone. Pete Tong here.
Look, 16-12. We will be back next week.
Oh God, that sounds horrible.
Don't forget the prediction league on Paddy's New Yacht Twitter. We'll be back next week to review it all and whatever stories crop up and see if John Delaney's still actually involved in the Ireland setup anymore. Fingers crossed.
I'll believe it when I see the garlic around his neck. That's when I believe that.
Until then, guys, have a good weekend. We'll be back. Stay tuned for Talk Nerdy to Me with Justy talking Game of Thrones conspiracy theories on Friday. And we'll be back next week on the Low Blows Network. But until then, for David Kent, I've been Rick Nash. And this has been Paddy's New Yacht. Nice one.